Sweet.
D.
Hello.
Hello.
What with all that?
Early adopter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. I got this pulled up. Mhm. Yep.
That'll be easy. Look at that toss box.
See, they're gonna trickle in. Mhm.
Ew, what's going on, guys?
God damn, he's loud.
I'm not the only one.
He's my handler.
Oh no, not at all. I'm here to watch the carnage, that's all.
Mm.
I'll send her a message.
Jeez, Lordy. So basically, right before they had they went from the cubes to the diamonds for the voxels. So I want to say that was like maybe Alpha 6 to Alpha 7 or Alpha 7 to Alpha 8. Whatever that transition was, I caught it right before that transition.
Was that when crafting was still kind of like Minecrafty, like early
Oh
Minecraft?
yeah,
Where you had yeah.
yeah. You had the grid. You had to like
Yeah.
draw like a little crossbow with a bunch of sticks. It was kind of cool.
Mhm.
I miss that stuff.
Fucking molds.
Yeah, molds were awesome.
I
Sharp
hated them.
sticks, sharp rocks, all that good stuff. All
Hey,
that
sharp
depth.
sticks were the bomb. Those things had reach. Did they?
I know Jax did. Quite a few of us old people like them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They didn't have any durability, so you could just use them just to jab,
Mhm.
jab, jab, and they were awesome for weapons.
There's Libby.
That's brilliant. No, I haven't got any questions right this minute, but Guppy, I'm really, really impressed with some of your new mods. They're brilliant.
Thank you. Been trying to get back into it, the swing of things.
Yeah, I've been watching your latest videos and they're just awesome.
It kind of came naturally. The Discord server was never originally for modding. It was for people who played on my server. That's why T and Stompy and a few other people, most of the red people, those are people who played on my server. And then Stompy really kind of started we started changing things, and he would change an XML thing here, XML thing there, and then from there it just kind of spiraled, kind of grew. And then yeah. Oh, Valmert Stoppy for sure. Val yeah, he had started a medieval mod way back in the day, like I don't know, 80 something old. And I was doing prefabs for it, and Stoppy was doing XML, and of course Val was doing his, everything else. It was supposed to be like just an XML mod with prefabs. And then, Val disappeared forever, and that's pretty much where that started. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was fun to keep up with. XPath makes that a lot easier, though.
Oh, so much easier.
Oh yeah. I would make basically level design and stuff. So my biggest thing was Neverwinter Nights. I like me. I like to play D&D, and I would do a lot of modules back then under a different name, Tenedos. I'm sure those mods are probably still available. And I was fairly prolific with that too. Making modules that people could play. So building was always my thing. Prior to that, Descent levels, Duke Nukem 3D levels, mostly level design, and then Total Annihilation. I did some mods for that. That involved some models and just changing a bunch of settings. But yeah, basically anything that allow me to build something, that's what always drew me towards it. That's why I like the Unity side of 7 days, because it allows me to add and build things to the game. Kenyu and Alec.
Yep.
Alec lately, Kenyu near the beginning though. He's the one I think who initially started exposing stuff to XML, and now Alec is the one who's been pretty much super helpful, and he does read the channels, and he sees what we need, and sometimes he adds, sometimes we don't. I mean, we don't have any kind of like great communication with him about it, but a lot of times we'll see stuff that was discussed, and he'll jump into the discussion, and then the next alpha, the support is there for it. So he's probably the primary guy for it right now. Uh,
Hated.
Jazz,
Hated.
Kyle.
Mhm.
Jazz was actually a player on my server. Um, oh yeah, yeah. He would always play solo, like away from the other people. It's kind of funny, but a lot of I would definitely attribute some things that we did on our server to some of the stuff that made it into the game. And I know that sounds cocky to say, but in this case, I think it's pretty accurate because we had feral zombies, some zombies that had, would be faster and stronger or whatever. And then later they sort of showed up in game. So, and it could have always been on the roadmap. I'm not that cocky, but in this instance, I think that was our idea. But
I'd like to see your campfire and your burning zombies get into game because the mechanics of those are just so much more real.
Oh, it definitely adds a new element. I wish I had more time to play, because I would definitely be. I would turn fire on every mod I download and play. I managed to turn fire on for. It's especially fun for things like sorcery, where you have so many things already blowing up, and it just adds a whole new element to the game.
It's more realistic as well.
Yeah, it's cool. I enjoy it. First one that I remember is my random getter upper, or the no, you know what is the Blood Moon mod. Um, Back in the day, the way the Blood Moon's set up, you'd have two waves and then a trickle. So you'd have like a wave of 20 zombies, another wave of 20 zombies, and then like one or two here and there. And then I did a mod that edited that and make you have I think I edited it to like 100 zombies or something. And then my Blood Moon trickle mod or something like that. And that was definitely the one that took off and got me into the scene, so to speak. And that was just a simple little XML edit. Oh, medieval by far. Yeah, I mean, as a my first overhaul and D&D being my love and passion between D&D and Godzilla, but to be able to bring that to the game, and it also got me into the Unity side of modding, which is what I really enjoy the most. So what had happened was Corona. It was me, Chico, and Tormented Emo V doing Medieval Mod 2, right? And V did a lot of custom code stuff. Her husband had gotten Corona and didn't do too great with it, so she had to leave, and a lot of bad things happened to her. And then A20 hit, and it broke a lot of important things with Medieval Mod, particularly the prefabs, because I had a lot of custom terrain textures and a lot of custom paints in there, and that was V's mod that allowed those new paints and terrain textures. So although other people have taken up that mantle and made their own version of that mod, I have a little over 200 prefabs, POIs, that need to be repainted and retextured, and
Oh,
I that's a pretty daunting task. And that kind of took me out of that. So it's still everything's still sitting there in the repo, and hopefully I'll be able to get back to it one day. But I just don't have the desire right now. Oh yeah, because I mean we had a lot of mostly I'd say maybe 2 months left of development to do. Quests and some XML stuff, and that'd have been it. Because I already had the entities, the weapons, and the blocks and the POI, so we were good there. I have actually have a Godzilla model, and now that I know how to rig, I plan on actually putting him into the game. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'll be more of a little vanity project. I do a lot of vanity projects that I never release. And so I mean, but if somebody wants to Godzilla, I'll stick them out there. But fine me. Play not my stuff. Um, Nah, it's a hard question because I like to, I'll take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I have no problem stealing from other people's stuff. I've tried most of the overhauls except for Wasteland. That's the next one I have to try. So I've tried Ravenhearst and Darkness Falls and Gna Mod. I think that's how Hayden decided to pronounce it. But mostly, I did a lot of my little modlets and stuff that, or other people's modlets and stuff to make the game more challenging and kind of bring it back to a more in-depth mod, turning fire on, requiring nails to make crates, things like that. So I don't really have any favorite mod per se. It's just I have a pretty large modlet list for when I do play though. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That was an interesting mod. I'm sure you played it. A lot of rhinoceroses and just things that were kind of oddball. Is like that to me was a mod more of like how Sphere does his mods, like because we can. I mean, it was a good mod and it was pretty strong, and Mort and Paco certainly did a lot towards it, but it wasn't really like had a cohesive. It was weird running through rhinoceros more frequently than you did zombies. Um, no, I enjoyed it. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it and I learned a lot from it. It wasn't really my thing because it didn't have any real flow to it. But he did a lot of cool stuff to it though. Oh yeah. Well, rest in peace, Paco. Now. Yeah, I think so. I know T had a snake idea that I really wanted to implement, where they weren't just slithering around; they were actually coiled up, and then that's how you would find them is coiled up. And so
Yeah, they would be static enemies.
yeah, yeah, and I think he was doing something with that. I'm not sure how far he got though before he got pulled to the dark side.
Hmm.
I dislike the simplification that they've been making. I mean, I personally believe it's due to the console port, but I dislike anything that is like for instance, you go treasure hunting and then all of a sudden there's a yellow arrows and icons and sparkly crap saying dig here. I dislike that kind of thing. So anything that makes the game gamey, I dislike. I liked the old sandbox, in depth, sharp. You have to take your wood, your plank. You take your wood, turn it to a plank, turn it to a sharpened stick or stick and then sharpen stick. I can't remember the order, but there's a lot of depth to it. That's the kind of thing I do like. If they had taken A16 and just added new features rather than rewrite the game like or rework the game like they did for A17, it'd be a game I would enjoy a lot more than the vanilla game I do as it is now. A16 to me was the apex of where the game was. Now, don't get me wrong, A20 is way more polished. It is beautiful. It is smoother, but as far as gameplay goes, it's a little too gamey for me. So anything that adds gaminess, I don't like. Well, and I think that's really the target audience too. I remember Mad Mole saying that one time. I think it was 25 hours of gameplay, which makes sense. That's what your casuals typically play. So you want to focus on them because that's where the money's at. I can't fault TFP for any business decision they made because they're obviously making it. They made a lot of money with the first console port. They're going to make a lot of money with this new console port. If that's where the money's at, they should chase that. I'm just grateful that they allow us to mod it so that we can make it the way we want to. Well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, because they add the static block like the bus or the I guess the tractor. I think I haven't played vanilla, so I don't know if that's A20, A21. I've seen screenshots for, but there's a tractor, and I know that first thing people are going to do is rip that asset and then make it drivable. I know I plan to if somebody else doesn't. Um, well, you kind of lose some of the cohesiveness of it. It's easy enough. It's the same amount of work either way. But if you have like, because I had a shopping cart buggy, right, that I made. You take a shopping cart and you kind of build it into a vehicle, and I think Darkness Falls used it in their last iteration. And but the shopping cart was a different model than the one in game, so it always to me looked a little ganky that you pick up their shopping cart and then put down my shopping cart, and it just looked different. So back then I didn't know how to rip assets though, so now that I do, I should probably revisit that. But so I think sticking with whatever they have is fine. Then add things if you want to, and then add those to the in-game as blocks as well. No, no, that hasn't been for a minute. It was what is that shit called? T, what's that? UTR?
That does not work for the
I know, but that was
newer you.
A19, right? What was that one
Correct.
called? UTR?
You tiny ripper.
Yeah, U Tiny Ripper. That was the A19, and now it's I think just straight Asset Ripper for A20. The U Tiny Ripper guy, he says he's going to be updating it to work with Unity 2020, but yet he hasn't yet. So you just kind of got to find whichever one works for the version of Unity ripping. Like I still rip A19 stuff out using UTR because UTR is better than whatever the A20 one is, Asset Ripper or whatever it is. Obviously, I can't rip any A20 assets, but it kind of works out for most stuff. Oh, the code stuff. Thankfully, we have a Spheri who's been really kind and does a lot of requests for score S score. I don't know how he says it, which kind of give us the fundamental code base, be able to do things like add an animation to a block. I kind of lost track of the question. What was the question again? Oh, yeah, just did that then. Yeah, all the code stuff because I don't code. I'm trying to learn, but it's not doesn't stick with me. And some other things that are challenging is because they're hiring a bunch of new artists and a bunch of new programmers. There's not a lot of consistency, like say amongst the zombie models. If somebody makes a model, one of their artists makes a model in Maya, it's gonna have a different rigging than if they make it in whatever other software is out there, 3ds Max or something. So we kind of lose some functionality, like being able to replace materials because they're rigged differently, and so some of the XML properties of old don't work anymore. And there you go. There's your biggest challenge right there. A lot of the stuff, somebody's going through the code right now and cleaning things up. So a lot of stuff that we're using now to bring back old features is kind of disappearing as every alpha. And so Sphere is either having to rewrite it or we just lose it. Oh yeah. Or you remember back? I guess I don't even know what alpha it was, where it would snow and the snow would collect on the ground.
Mm.
Yeah. How cool was that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That code's gone.
Oh.
It just doesn't. It's not there anymore. It's something you used to be able to use, but now you can't. Custom biomes gone. You need Sphere to come in and fix it so you can make custom biomes because vanilla they brought in this horrible design called microsplat, and so it's little things like that. Well, it brought XPath in, and that
Yep.
was a game changer. I mean, A17 itself was not great in my opinion, but yeah, as far as modders go, that was a huge change. Well, I think we've had the mini bike since like A12 or A11 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, we got new vehicles in A17, but we got random world generation completely destroyed. So here, have this thing, but I'm taking away this thing.
Yeah. Well, Ken, what we on Random Gen 4, I think, right now. He's been tasked to change that a lot, and I've actually talked to Kenya Ju a lot, like on a one-to-one basis. Like because he would go driving around the country, like driving around actual roads, trying to learn how to do how roads actually work, so he could work in Random Gen. And I don't know what's happened on the behind-the-scenes side, but yeah, he's on version I think want to say 4 for Random Gen, so that has definitely changed a lot. Me, I'm the opposite. I actually like the baked maps. I just think they're better made, but Random Gen's definitely coming a long way.
Yeah, it's better now than it's ever been.
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of agree with Force, and personally, I like to just to explore, not knowing what's out there. But the problem with that, if you're a server owner, you have to make sure the map's actually viable. So when you play on the server, you already know where everything is.
Right. That's definitely a case.
Mm.
Modding features or just features in general? No, I think they, for as far as modding features go, I think they pretty much, got it down. We have the ability, it natively supports code. It natively support. Oh, you know what? Pushing the mods out. So like if I'm connected to a server that has mod XYZ, I'd like to be the option to be able to download mod XYZ from in its entirety, including its icons, its resource files, even if it takes me a gig or two. Because I've played Arma 3 a lot, and you connect to a server there, you may be sitting there for 30 minutes downloading a couple of gigs worth of mods. I'm cool with that. As long as it's an option for me. So I'm hoping that that's a thing that comes. Oh my God. Have you seen the stuff that Prime's been talking about on the Twitch channel? A lot of it. Okay, so all of those Twitch game events that he's been doing, excuse me, he has been making it so that they're available outside of Twitch stuff. So one of the things he talked about that was really exciting to me personally was you could interact with a block and it would have an area of effect reaction to other blocks surrounding it. So you could, in theory, create one of those little puzzle things where you push a block in and it makes other blocks move and all sorts of, redstone-y kind of stuff, based on what he's been talking about in the Twitch channel. He's been adding. He actually was on for like a week taking suggestions. And it's about 6 or 7 of us jumped up on there and we're making suggestions to him. And he said, "That's in, that's in, that's in." So I'm mostly looking forward to whatever's going to be finalized for the Twitch events because they're going to be accessible to us as modders outside of Twitch. And it sounds like a lot of the stuff that we do using code is going to be part of the vanilla-based game now. So super excited about that. Yeah, I actually don't do a lot of Twitch stuff, so I don't really know. I don't know much about how the Twitch stuff works. T could probably answer better than that, but it's just exciting to me that he's doing everything he's doing. He's exposing to us modders as well. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, anyone who has not checked out gameevents.xml yet, you really need to. In the future, that is going to be driving a lot more things in the game. So the sooner folks are more acclimated to how that works and everything, the better off things are going to be for going forward in the future.
Because it used to all be in buffs, right? Everything used to be a buff. You buff this, you buff that. So quests were tied to buffs. Everything was tied to buffs, and it slowly becoming its own system. So it's been pretty exciting.
I like part of the additions of Twitch, but I have noticed they're a bit static, where everything has to be in the XML and you can't really change anything on a dynamic level. Could it be additions to that?
T?
For the Twitch events, there's things like, say, taking an item out of somebody's inventory, but that has to be in the XML. So if you wanted to change the item that you want to remove, you'd need hundreds of additions to the XML to cover all the different types of items, names, quantities, counts, everything. Is there?
Yeah, that's the beauty of the XPath stuff is you do have to initially set it up. Otherwise, how's it going to know what you need to take? But no, you wouldn't be able to like, type take item and then type an item name and it just ties into what you can't read that item name and then search the XMLs for it. No, I don't see that happening.
He ties it to flags. So like there's a command he does for spoil, so it spoils any food.
It'll be based off of the item tag, yeah.
Yeah, the item tag. So anything that has that tag, it automatically goes in and it looks for that tag. So if it's raw meat, it sees a tag, it switches it to spoiled meat. Anything else that has that tag. So and it will look in your inventory, it'll look on your belt, it'll look on both. The game events thing is so awesome. You guys should really look at it.
It is. I mean, intent tags are really powerful because I mean, you obviously need to make sure that things are tagged properly, but yeah, that's exactly what you just said. If it's
So
like
they
for fire, for instance, we have tags. We have to add tags, as flammable. So we go through and my mod tags a lot of things as flammable or adds, it makes materials a certain particular materials flammable. And then from then that point going forward, if you want to set fire to something, it applies to anything that already has that tag. Well, I do it by material because to me that makes more sense. I want paper to be, yeah, wood, paper to be super flammable. Um, Cobblestone, I know Dark Star Dragon wanted cobblestone to melt. And with the fire mod, you can actually add different particles for different materials. So instead of like an actual flame, you can have like a kind of a smoldering, melty particle effect on top of cobblestone, whereas a chemical might burn blue, whereas wood would burn orange. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, or you definitely have to be more careful. That's one of the things I was trying to do with my little campfire. Is if you set the campfire on wood, you just caught your base on fire. So you now have to build a hearth out of stone to place your campfire on.
Guppy, can I just ask? I watched your video, about the fire. It was a little while back now, and I did ask if it would call in screamers.
Yes, it now does call in
It does call
screamers.
in screamers. Okay.
Yep. And you can set that up individually as well, so that some fire events don't call in screamers, other fire events do. As a default, though, yeah, it should definitely call in screamers.
Yeah. Okay.
It raises the heat map.
Nice one.
That gets fun.
Exit that be surprised.
did
Oh,
the
hello,
addition of
everyone.
Harmony help in your mod production?
Well, it did because back before Harmony with DNT, you'd have to pre-compile the DLL to say, okay, open yourself up to be able to accept scripts, and then you have to ship that DLL, which you had to do outside of a modlet. So with Harmony, you're able to just put the scripts into a scripts folder in your modlet, and the game automatically compiles it for you as long as ESC is off. So you no longer have to do work ahead of time and ship that work with the mod. So yeah, absolutely. You can only do that with Harmony, I think. And Minivent scripts, you can't do it with Biponex. You still would there's certain types of mods that need to load before the game loads, that you can't do natively, as I call it. You still have to ship something. But yeah, Harmony absolutely made that easier.
Do you think they'll expand on that integration at all?
No, I don't. I think he's pretty much done with that. That's all Alec there, and that is some stuff I've seen him discuss on my server. That I think that's pretty much done. There's only so much he wants to be able to do because he doesn't want to open access for malicious events to happen.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
already borderline.
yeah, there's actually some things you could do with the I call it the ZUI, the UI interface right now that could really mess you up, that the people don't really know about or really think about. But for instance, you could remap the new game button to a code event that formats your computer. So he wants to avoid that.
Yeah, no kidding. I found one that can reset your UI to the single player, even on a multiplayer. It's actually built into the console commands. It's almost like an injection built
Yeah,
into the game.
it gets a little dicey there. So I mean, people are always going to find ways to cheat anyway, but he wants to make it as hard as possible, I guess.
Makes sense.
Is that an alien talking?
I think John's saying his mic is being a bit awkward,
I don't see anything.
but you hear it. Thanks, John.
Have you ever worked with, I almost want to reference Diablo, but set items where one item kind of stacks with another? You could make an entire armor set.
Well, that's pretty much how you do with the item modifiers. But yeah, absolutely. I have a rad suit mod where you would need, I think, 5 pieces, right? Because there's actually 3 different levels of radiation in the game that's been there forever, and it kind of gives you an idea of where they're going to go with it in the future: light radiation, medium radiation, and heavy radiation. Right now, everything's set to heavy radiation. But long story short, maybe I think where you had 2 pieces of a rad suit, then you're able to go through the light radiation areas. And if you have 4 pieces, you're able to go through the medium radiation areas, that kind of thing. So, yeah, armor sets and all that completely doable, 1000% with the custom variables you have. Basically, if you put the piece on, it adds 1 to your custom variable. So if custom
Right.
variables equal 5, then you have a full suit, and it gives you a whole nother set of specs. Oh, cool.
Hello.
Obsessive compulsive, right?
Obsessive compulsive or obsessive coder.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I think they're the same thing.
Oh yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, stay up to 3 a.m. until your eyes start bleeding, and then go to bed, wake up, start doing it again.
There you go.
What, you go to bed?
Go to bed, pass out, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I think the company is probably going to focus on their 2 other titles. They're doing for what I understand, they're doing a sequel and then a mystery game. The sequel, I don't know if it's a sequel, prequel. I don't know what it's going to be. Given Joel's love for medieval stuff, I'm hoping they do, their own version of medieval. And I have no idea what their other game's going to be. But as far as gold goes, I think they're going to do some fixes, but pretty much it's going to just kind of be, it is what it is. I mean, it's a fairly polished game anyway, especially for
NPCs.
supposed alpha. So I don't expect a whole much coming from it after that. Yeah, so I've actually talked to Kinyu about that because I think he'll be the one doing that. It'll be exactly like that. There was a VR mod, like A11 or A12 or A13, something like that, where somebody hacked something and added a VR camera, and it was kind of like the Minecraft VR. I don't know if you ever played it. You're basically just seeing everything in VR, but you still use your handheld controllers as buttons. So you still click E or press some left thumb or something like that to pick up, rather than actually have hands that grab things. We're not going to see any real good Boneworks type VR, but we'll definitely see some VR, I think. I mean, it'll be it's a little disappointing to me because I like VR, but I mean, it's expected because they'd have to rework so much. Actually, with the Unity stuff I did, I've actually done some VR kind of stuff in Unity because it's super easy. You basically swap out the cameras for a VR camera, and you swap out the controller with VR controllers. So I've been able to like create a little scene and walk around it and stuff. It's super easy, but it's nothing like in depth in terms of like being able to reach out and pick something up, throwing it like I was hoping for. But
I
it is
really
what it
hope
is.
I really hope they add it after they give some optimizations a go because the cities in Alpha 20 you can get frame drops of like 20 frames per second, and in VR that is just gonna make so many people barf.
Yeah, that would be killer. Shadows are really the biggest killer for frames anyway. People love to leave shadows on, and they're cute and all, but if you turn them off, you're not going to notice in the game when you're playing it, and you'll gain so many frames from shadows being turned off.
And reflections.
Yeah, just stuff that is great in a still shot where you can take the time to notice it, but when you're playing, you never notice it.
Motion blur. Why do they keep that in?
I don't know. I turned that off. I turned the autofocusing off. Sun
Mhm.
shafts. Any of that dumb crap. Well, I mean, the stuff that when I'm walking around in the real world, I don't see, so I don't want to see it in a game.
You know, I would take it a lot less pretty if it was more optimized.
Well, I mean, he cheats too. A lot of the screenshots he does, they do post processing on. So what you see in the screenshot, you're not getting in the game anyway. Yeah, I think it's a little disingenuous, but it's also the standard marketing tactic that all of them seem to do. So yeah, somebody stepped on it. Yeah.
Yeah, let me get over there. Let's see. Well, we had one from Arcade Revolution, and they were asking, "What's the hardest mod you ever had to code so far?"
Hard. It's kind of a difference between hard and time consuming. Like when I've been doing these clocks lately, and they're super time consuming. Hard though, the random armor thing was pretty hard. Where basically you spawn one entity and then it selects random meshes to decide what to show. So you can have one entity and have a couple hundred different looks to it. That was fun but hard.
Well, that reminds me of when they had the zombies with the what was that called? Where they had different stuff on them. Crap.
UMA.
Yes, thank you. That didn't
Yeah,
last very long.
we're all baked zombies right now, meaning that they're all actual models that you rig and bake and add meshes to and whatnot. The only thing left UMA in the game is the actual player, and that is supposedly going away. I want to say A21, but I don't think that's been confirmed yet. When that happens, though, that's when we're going to be able to do cool stuff with the player, like for instance, have clothing, options that we can bring in. Right now, you have to kind of do it in a kind of a janky way, but then we'll be able to bake and make our own players. So if you want to play as Snoop Dogg, you download a Snoop Dogg model, and boom, you're Snoop Dogg. And the other thing I think it should allow is we'll have access to their controller, and we'll be able to add things like leaning or prone or different animations. I'm hoping. That's one of the things I'm optimistic about. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, E and Q sitting right there. I mean, they're not just to drop Mad Mole's bow, you know? I'd love for it to be able to lean around a corner and maintain some stealth while being able to look around. There's a lot of things you could do with that. Yeah, smell is awesome.
Oh, I miss smell.
And,
I
and that's kind of
know.
something you can actually do now. It's just reworded to, I think, light is what they're using it. But you can actually add smell back in, even by carrying items. You could have carrying that item change a CVAR, which because the player is doing all the broadcasting. Zombies don't actually broadcast buffs. The player broadcasts it, and if it finds a zombie, then it bounces back to the player. So if the player's carrying around some raw meat, they could broadcast something that zombies would then be able to react to. So that's all completely doable. It's just a lot of work, so I don't think anybody's really sat there and done it yet, except for probably Kane. Yeah, he's got a lot of free time. Yeah, he stays busy.
Yep, I had some actually. There was what's the most absurd mod you worked with? Anything that made you laugh a lot while you were making it?
Oh, baby boomers. So
I remember those.
yes, Stompy had originally had chickens in the game that would attack you and then explode. I said, why are we doing chickens? We have UMA. We could just do babies. So we swapped that over to the babies, and then they would run up to you and explode. They were phenomenal. So that was a scary situation because they explode like a cop does and make a big old, or like a demo guy does now, make a big old hole in your base. So, and the way they were set up is that they would explode when they got close to you. So they were
Mhm.
fun.
That would be great.
I can hear Carmen.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
It's,
no,
it's
I
my
like
can hear Carmen now. We've got to kill a few players with these babies.
oh my players already know if I'm laughing when I'm talking about it that they're probably in fucking trouble.
you remember that little dancing baby I think was made famous in Ally
Yeah,
McBeal.
Ally
Yeah,
McBeal,
yeah.
yeah.
They look it looked like that.
Ugh.
So they weren't great looking, but you definitely had that vibe to it, and it was just funny. I mean,
Oh.
chickens were great. Killer deer were great. Anything that could move, Stompy had set up to kill us. But the
Mhm.
baby boomer was by far the most ludicrous and the most fun.
I did the same thing with babies, but instead of exploding, they were crawlers. So they crawl up the walls and start
Ugh.
crying, and
Oh
yeah,
man,
it
I
was
miss
great.
crawling up walls.
I had I had back when they had like the little girl still. I had I made her glow and stuff like that, and then I attached the Raider sound events to her, so she was running up to the walls, telling everybody, "I'm gonna fucking kill you." It was they were the Girl Scouts, so
ESPX just sent me a model for a free baby, so I think I know what I'm going to be bringing back.
whee. And
Especially
then
using the demo code now. It's everything was so much easier now. The way
mhm,
the way TFP is done with the mods, it's like we don't have to work quite as hard anymore to bring
yeah.
something that seems like a simple idea. And well, they also have that Twitch dancing event, so it's completely doable. I know, like
Mhm.
my burnt vultures. You have a vulture in the sky, you shoot it down with a flame arrow or flamethrower, whatever, and it burns it and it drops to the ground as a burnt vulture with no feathers. That actually does the chicken dance for its dance animation. Well, I have a couple of the ones that I did. It's all in the zombie controllers. I actually do have one or two of them doing the thriller dance. Well, a piece of it.
Nice.
Long as the animation's available for free, because I don't like to spend money, then it's you can put it into the game. And there's the thriller dance is broken down into 4 sections on a site called Mixamo. And yeah, so I applied that towards some of them. So
I
did the
used
little
the
leg shuffle.
I used the Twitch dance buff on some zombies for my nightclub trader prefab.
There you go.
It was amusing.
You
I
know,
put
actually,
Prime's head on a fat mama and had him dancing on a pole. Did a
oh
little
my.
video YouTube on that. Gave it to him.
Hey, it's almost Halloween.
There you go. Almost TwitchCon too. Yeah, I mean, TFP is gonna have a booth there, so I thought about going, but prices right now, man, be $1,500 just for a day. Screw that. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind meeting some of these people, but not that much. Yeah,
Yes. Alrighty. What trick do most new modders not seem to know about?
the configs dump.
The pardon?
So basically, when you write your XPath and your XML, it makes change to the base XML games, right? But it all kind of does it in memory. Well, there's something called a configs dump, where it takes that file, the after the fact file, and it writes it. So you actually have access to see what your XML's done to, or I'm sorry, what your XPath has done to the XML. So it's super helpful for debugging because a lot of times you'll write what you think is working great, and your XPath path's not giving an error. For some reason, it doesn't work. Where you go look and you see that it didn't actually write what you wanted it, what you thought it was writing. So it's a way to look at your the final XML generation after you've used XPath to change it. And next to nobody who comes on my server knows about that until we tell them about it. And then they're like,
Excellent.
"Oh my god," that and using Excel for the localization file. Because if you open a localization file, it's a text file, it looks like utter dog shit. It's very hard to read. You throw it in Excel as a CSV file because it's a common delimited file. All of a sudden, it's in nice columns. It's super easy to read, easy to format, and that just makes your life a whole lot easier. So those two things.
Is
That's
there a
excellent.
set of programs you would recommend if somebody was getting into modding?
Well, Unity because it's free. Notepad++ because it's a good XML editor.
You
And
need the
then
XML tools plugin for that as well.
yeah, and then that's pretty much really all you need. Blender's helpful, but what's even more helpful is saying, "Hey, so and so, can you do this for me in Blender?" And then 10 minutes later, I have it. That's way more helpful than me spending 2 days in Blender. So yeah, knowing who to ask is probably my skill set anyway. And yeah, that.
All right, my last question then is I do obviously more dedicated management type modding rather than XML. Is there anything you would need or could see be helpful in the future for us to add for the modding community?
Back in the day, I had actually written a telnet interface where I was able to, I could add my own telnet commands then that way. So like telnet listener is what I called it. But no, because I don't really use server managers anymore because I don't play enough. If
Right.
when I start getting back into playing and then I set up my server again, then I'll see what's out there. The last thing I used was Rat, and I couldn't even tell you what version that was. That was a long time ago because
I think
me and Trekken are pretty tight.
I think
Uh,
Rat's at 2.0 or he released some kind of redo.
yeah, I mean, all he's really got to keep up with is the new server configs, right? As far as what Rat was doing, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just been so long since I've actually played for any length of time, so I don't even know what's out there. I like some of the ideas, but I think it's already implemented where you can um, admin tools. You can go in and look at somebody's chest, go in, see what's in somebody's inventory, that kind of thing. That'd be the biggest thing for me. Because sometimes you just got to fix stuff.
What's your hopes for the new A21 water?
Oh, bandits. I mean, oh, water. Oh,
Water.
water. I'm sorry.
Water.
I think it's going to be just
Water.
like Valheim's. So I'm fine with how that works. You can already there's two different ways of adding water to the game in terms of when you're making a map. Um, One of them is painting like on the map what where you want the water to be, and depending on what color blue you use, depends on water height. So I think that'll be as long as it's set up like Valheim's, where it's just there and the game knows when you're in water. I'm fine with that. I don't need fancy waterfalls and all that stuff. Well, the way they do it now is they have particular waterfall water voxels that they put that stack on top of each other, kind of give you that effect. So, like when you go to Navigaine, I don't know if it's still there in Alpha 20, but there's a waterfall there, and it's just a different water block that's stackable. So I think they probably leave that in. Yeah. Well, we have boat mods as it is. I don't think that'll change. But depending on how they do water, I don't think that'll change. But basically, it's a vehicle, it's a car that doesn't have a lot of weight to it, and I don't know. Ragsy does all that physics stuff. But yeah, we've got boats, we've got hang gliders, we've got parachutes, bodysuits. If you name it, it's been put into the game already, modded wise. And that to me is probably the biggest obstacle that modders face is awareness. A lot of people ask for things or want for things. They don't know that it's already there, that if they do XYZ, they can add it there. Honestly, and I don't want to sound cocky, but that's my would be my number one advice. We I think have a very smooth system, a lot of channels, a lot of pin messages, a lot of resources where it does make it easy for a new modder to come in. But as far as advice for them personally, is don't have an ego, because that doesn't help anybody. Like a lot of modders, they'll come in and they want to keep things, to keep it close to the vest. Hey, how do you do such and such? But they're not really telling us what they're actually trying to accomplish, because they think we're going to steal it or something. I don't know, and that just takes them longer to mod. To me, a modding community be like, if I make something, I have no problem if somebody else uses it. To me, that's a form of flattery. Whereas other modders, they make something, they try to obfuscate it and make it as impossible as possible to make sure that no other modder could possibly use it. And I think that just hurts the community as a whole. So just come in with a good attitude and a sharing attitude, and I think you're going to be successful, because people can be more prone to help you as well. Like take Theory for instance. I mean, he doesn't give a shit who uses his mods or who gives him credit or whatnot. But without him, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of stuff we do today. The Canadian is strong in that one, because I mean, there's just certain people I lose patience with, but then somebody else like Kane, for instance, who has no patience. God bless him. So Sphere is a good balance for that. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no doubt. This is not a knock on Kane at all. But once he sees that once you've pissed him off, forget it. Yeah, which that's a valid response. Some people. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, one of the Discord rules is don't be a dick. I mean, that pretty much covers a lot of
Yeah.
that.
I think part of the fact that a lot of modders do share their stuff, I think that's partly the reason 7 Days to Die has been such a success for so long, because I think it would have possibly died a death without them.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, there's so many different aspects to modding, because it's almost like game development, but without the restrictions. I mean, you have somebody who knows how to model versus somebody who knows how to work it in, bring the model in Unity, versus somebody who knows how to use XML to use the model. And those are three different skill sets that not everybody has. Me personally, I'm more of a jack of all trades, master of nothing. Whereas other people are really, really good at art, like Mumphy, or somebody's really, really good at XML, like TSPX. Those things are, it's important that everybody kind of get together and share that along with each other, because otherwise, you're right, it would die. Yeah. It does, but there might be something new you have to do, like setting the Unity lighting from gamma to linear. He won't address that in that video, because that video is from an older video, but it's something you would need to do for A20. So there's little things you kind of go along the way to make that, and that's the difficulty of doing that, because we've talked about doing a wiki, we've talked about making that kind of website, and I know actually Zith was doing PDFs of how to do all that stuff, but so much changes every alpha or even every dot alpha that all of a sudden you have to rework everything. So I think once everything's finalized, that's the time when go ahead and go through all the pin messages, see what's still valid, edit the ones that need editing, and then kind of create a one-stop shop.
Have
Definitely
you
not yet.
ever have you ever found a good source for all the mods in general outside of the forum?
Um, like for downloading them.
Yeah, well, any mods in general that are for 7 days.
Well, there's really only two places, Nexus and then the forums. There is the 7days to die mod.com or whatever hell it is, but all that does is just take the feed from the forums and reword a little bit.
Yeah.
So between that and Nexus, I think you're pretty much covered. If there's another source, I don't know about it. Well, that's going to be, yeah. I mean, you basically have to tell Sphere about it in the first place. So you have to one, know it exists, and then two, say, hey Sphere, here's my link for it. I've set it up for you. So that's good. Yeah, yeah. Well, Nexus would be fine if it didn't rename the files with their Vortex thing. If it didn't do that, then the mods wouldn't break. But that's the other thing with the mods is even when the Steam Workshop support comes out, it's not going to be a solve all because some mods are going to naturally conflict with other mods. So you're still going to need to know what works with what. And that's one thing Sphere is working on with the new mod launcher is these dependencies. Like my fire mod absolutely depends on score. And that's number one thing that I have going on as far as customer support, I guess, goes forward is there's no fire, there's no fire, there's no fire. Well, you're using an old version of score that you got with the NPC mod because the NPC mod also uses score. Piper Max mod also uses score. So it's that's some things are going to be in to the end user. So yeah, the mod launcher is probably the best at sorting that. As far as finding new mods, yeah, I mean, I guess so. That's probably pointing to a lot of old repos. I don't know what does and doesn't work though. Well, that's one of the things. I'm sure you're aware. We have a significant number of hidden channels on my server. A lot of that is basically that kind of thing where it's Sphere and the core people, Sphere, Zith, whoever, kind of getting together, try to create standards for exactly that, right? Um, so that because it's still going to be up to the mod author to specify what those dependencies are, and they're going to need to do it in a particular format for the mod launcher or for the base game. So that's still a lot of dependent on the mod authors themselves to actually spit that out. So there are a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on in trying to go with that, but getting two people to agree on something is not always a fun project. So and then if you like right now there's actually three different mod authors creating a menu driven like the game menu driven mod launcher, three different mod authors. And so we said, okay, you guys are all three doing the same thing, why don't we get together and kind of hash it out and make it just one thing. And I had to mute that channel because it's not going well. Yeah, I mean, it's just people have different ideas of what they want, and then and the egos get involved, and it's just it kind of destroys that. But one day, we'll see how it goes. Really, what happens is TFP needs to kind of settle it and say, okay, this is what is necessary for this, and that's the benefit of the Steam Workshop support's going to do. And Alec has been really involved in that process. So we're hoping that he's paying attention to some of these channels. I honestly don't have a good understanding of exactly what Steam Workshop is going to do. So I have no idea. It's not just not something I keep up with because I do everything my own way. I don't, you know, I don't mess that stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't like change. I'm not gonna change. You only lost 1,000? Amateur. Yeah, I lost 13 to 14,000 posts. Damn it, Roland. Yep. They have to change. One of those things is like it was irritating. Yeah. Yeah, people are stupid. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, that's scary. Their installer. Team Workshop support making mods more available. Yeah, these days I can't even figure out how to play Arma 3. When it first came out and I was first, getting into it was really fun. I tried to join a game maybe a year ago, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. There was just so much new stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. It was like we're in this giant. It was crazy. That game has grown too much. Yeah, yeah, that would suck. Generally speaking, the games I play these days are pretty much. I don't. I'll hop in Need for Speed or Roller Coaster Tycoon or 7 Days, but for the most part, it's just all about modding. It's just more fun to me. I like building shit.
Was there not I can't remember which one it is. I've tried to find it in the past. There was one of the old style, like Dev Diaries Madmo used to do, and it was something like a blueprint system where you. He said you could make these like there was like mini prefabs you could make, and it like saved the plan. And then instead of building another one block at a time, you just build the whole thing at once or something like that.
We had that mod, medieval mod. You could place a block and it would grow into a POI, and it would do it like build it block by block. It's kind of cool.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It's. I was actually a couple of nights ago. I was going through the old Git repos, and I saw the code for that. And now that I'm trying to learn the code side of it, because that was all done by Stompy. That's actually one of the two mods that I want to update into an A20 mod, where basically you would say purchase a house POI from a trader. You would place that block, and then over time it would grow into an actual POI. Yeah. So that's cool stuff. Oh, you could do that too right now easily. Like Dredden, he did that with the Winterfell. It's one block, right? But it takes up one voxel space. But the mesh size is, huge, 100 by 100 or whatever it may be, and it's a translucent, um, you know, mesh, so that way you can actually walk around and know where to place your blocks at, if that's what you're talking about. Yeah, completely doable right now through Unity. In fact, fairly easy-ish as long as you have models. Well, you would need to. So with the Unity side of it, you would need to take it from a POI and turn it back into a 3D model. Um, but that's
Like an
I know
imposter.
there's just the converter. Yeah, but I know there's converters for that in Minecraft. So I suspect a coding person could probably write a tool to do that as well, where they would take a POI and then have it change it to a model, or take a model and have it turn into a voxel POI. I know there's that for Minecraft. Yep. Yep. hmm You bring it into Unity. You, Yes. So you would need to change the shader a little bit to make it a little transparent so you could see, obviously. But yeah, absolutely. The problem there is that those kind of models are going to be, boards rather than full voxel size blocks. So you're not going to get a direct one-to-one translation, typically, unless for whatever reason the modeler decided to make everything, a meter thick walls. But yeah, for the most part, you definitely be able to get the outline, the flooring, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Yeah.
I wonder if you could do it like the other way round, where instead of um, taking a model and making it a POI, you take a model and make it into, you take a prefab, sorry, and make it into a model. So the distant mesh imposter, that's pretty much a model. But could you take that model and use it for something else, like a vehicle? So you could like drive around a vehicle that is like the Dishong Tower prefab imposter.
Well, that's the thing. What you would need a tool for, because you need to be able to convert that to a mesh, to a single mesh, rather than
Hmm.
a group of meshes. And like you said, the imposter blocks kind of do that. So I'm sure that technology is certainly doable. Somebody who knows how to code. I'm just not that person. Somebody who writes tools. So Pile could probably do it pretty easy, because he's already kind of doing that anyway with his prefab editor. Is you're he because he was creating. I don't know how much you've used his prefab editor. It got pretty complex though. It would actually create like a little virtual model you could zoom in and out of, in within the editor to kind of see what you feel is going to look like a renderer or something. Yeah, I agree. Relations. Yeah. Yeah, because BCM had that too. And now we've got the fill command with the Z thing and all that, and yeah, definitely a lot of the tools are definitely better in game now. I like to hop between the two because you could be in the prefab editor and piles editor, and just as long as you remember which one you're saving, you just go back and forth reload, go back and forth reload, and kind of work between the two. That's how I used to make POIs.
Oh,
I
Terragon was so nice.
I bug him personally every once in a while, because I like to bug him. He says that he's pretty close to releasing it for testing. But I mean, I'm not going to test. I'm just going to ask for more features. Between me and Crunch, I think the two of us have a good basis of because not many people actually make custom maps. There's like six of us, right?
I
So,
do.
well, seven of us then. Great,
I love
working
it.
working with the hype maps and working with the
Hmm.
splat maps and all that, not fun garbage. But I mean, it's sort of rewarding when everything's said and done. Like, you guys watching Amazon Prime, the token thing, Rings of
Rings of
Power,
Power.
whatever.
Hmm.
So you know the island that they're on right now, that the way the ship
Hmm.
sailed in, you got the tall ass. Yeah, yeah.
Shh. Spoilers.
So that's the map that's one of the maps I'm making right now. Um, yeah, and I'm really close. Somebody will I'll have to go through the POIs, but as far as the actual entrance and those high walls, and I'm pretty close to having that done. That's it.
Nice.
Probably one of those things I'll never release, but whatever. Yeah. Can't even find that. I can't find half my stuff because a hard drive will crash and then I'm done, right? And I have a bunch of SSDs right now. My main one in my game computer is going bad, so I lose stuff all the time. And then so I'll work between two or three different computers, and I'll forget which projects on which computer. I lose stuff all the time, man. I that was like an A15, A14 oil rig. I have no idea where that thing is.
Did you check your recycle bin?
Yeah. So I run out a lot of space, so I empty that too. And that's actually part of my problem because I really do. It's a joke, but I really do use the recycle bin as my backup.
Oh, I
It
know.
really is. So when I do run out of space, I'm like, fucking goddamn son of a bitch, and I go delete it. That's when I lose a lot of stuff. I have a NAS that has plenty of space. It's not that. It's just lack of memory, lack of workflow. It's just something in me. I don't have it when it comes to this stuff. So,
I
yeah,
swear you
You
guys
do
just
need a
jinxed
handler.
me
I do
because
need a handler.
I've been working on something in the preview editor while you guys were all talking. So I was moving some things around, and all of a sudden the entire game crashed. I'm like, uh-oh, because I was
Yeah,
moving a whole bunch of stuff up. Like, oh my god, everything I've done since the start of this podcast, whatever, is just gone.
you
Okay, you
No
freaking
autosave.
like this morning,
yeah.
I was working with a clock, and clocks have 60 minutes, so I was doing 60 different animations.
Uh-huh.
And I import. I was like, okay, I'm happy with this, but I want something from another version I did on another computer. So I copied it over, imported it, not thinking. I just rewrote all 60 animations with the older version on the other laptop. So it's like, oh Christ Almighty. So little things like that is what gets me.
If I would have one recommendation for you is to utilize Git for such things to keep everything synchronized.
I actually do have a Git specifically for this purpose. I just forget to use it.
Yeah, you don't use it.
And then now they have their
I'm
little
well aware that you use Git already, but you should utilize it more. It can help a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, that's something to do, but Git's also knocking their repo size down to 5 gigs, and my project files are much bigger than that.
Just
So
host your own instance of GitLab then,
yeah, that's not
or
inside my skill
get
set.
someone who does it for you.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things I should and be doing should be doing. I know myself.
Disorganization is said to be the sign of a creative mind.
Yeah, either that or an Alzheimer mind. I don't know.
One or the other.
I totally agree with that.
Potato, potato. I think I don't know. Did you guys already cover the one from BP? The when do we think 7 days ago gold? Okay.
Well, let's see. No, actually I have a theory. I have a theory on this, and I can't get an answer because the TF people won't tell me. But my theory is that Fatal is the one who's now in charge of the 7-day development, and just this is my theory. I don't know how true it is. So I think A21 will be the last alpha before gold, because once bandits are in, they'll have hit all their benchmarks except for VR and playing as a zombie. And I don't think they care about either of those two things. And then so I think they're done after that. So there'll be an A22 then
Yeah.
that
definitely.
is gold, and that has a couple of beta updates, but I think that's it. So A21 should be December this year, A22 December next year, and that's what I'm calling it. Yes, or at least in whatever they're going to call beta. Because it's all rock. Yeah, yeah. Feature complete. That's my theory. Because and I know CT's being awfully quiet over there, but a lot of their developers are now onto the other games, so it's basically their B team on right now on 7 days, so they're just finishing shit up. That's my theory. I don't know how right I am. Yeah, that'll be all Prime. He does electricity. He's using West and and Twitch events or game events now.
Don't let me bring up my wish list for updates.
Oh God.
Why update it? Just mod it.
I do, but I
Yeah.
want my fixes implemented into the game so players don't need to use mods from me to enjoy a game which is less buggy.
Yeah. And that's one thing I've actually always appreciated about TFP is that one, they will take modders, like Alec started off as a modder, Gaz started off as a modder. They'll take modders and turn them into developers, or they'll take things that actually modders do fix, like I think Zamat had a few fixes out for that got implemented into the game. And they don't have any problem doing that. And I appreciate that about it. They don't have that big of an ego that, I know Mad Bull's his own person, but the rest of the developers really are open to, hearing things, even if us lowly modders who don't have a booth, say something that the developers are listening.
I think it's just an issue with communication. Like when you report a bug in the bug tracker, and I don't know what happens in the background, but I'm pretty sure the developers have another bug tracker for internal, and then there's a bridge, and somehow in the process something is lost there, and then get your reported bug status changed to confirmed, then to work in progress, and then 1.5 years later you think like, well, that 5-minute fix is not done yet.
Yeah, I have no clue. I mean, I know they have a
So I don't
priority
blame. I
list.
don't blame. So I don't blame the programmers from the fun pimps. It's somewhere where the communication is not working. To be honest.
Yeah, I couldn't begin to speak on that. I mean, it just makes sense because really all they have left is bandits, right? I mean, and some other chicken shit stuff.
Pretty sure.
I mean, it's not confirmed yet because it's not on the dev page, but yeah, that's the theory. So if bandits aren't ready by December-ish, then bandits will be pushed to 822. I don't have any doubt about that. But I think they'll be ready by then because it's not rocket science. I mean, they already know how to make models, and then it's just about writing the AI package for it and how deep they want to go. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and Fatal's background is Borderlands, so they've got that. I don't think they will because it just their policy, or not policy, their thing is what's the value add for that, right? How's it going to add to the game? And I think that's just going to be up to us to continue to include. I don't think they're going to have NPCs beyond traders. NPC mod, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, if you haven't tried NPC mod from Zith, and that would definitely satisfy that for you. It's a full set of mods. It's pretty intense, but I mean, it has a faction system. It has leveling up system, if I remember right. I could be wrong on that. I know they were discussing it, and it's certainly doable with buffs. Like you can have a guy following you around, healing you whenever you get low. I mean, it has all sorts of different cool things you can do. Mostly Zith and Spheri make a framework that other modders can then improve upon, and that's pretty much what Score is anyways. It's framework for other modders because Spheri doesn't really actually know how to mod, but if you could believe it. Um, he doesn't know how to code, obviously. So we basically give the parameters of what we want, and he makes it for us, and then we make the mods out, off of that. So he's enabled fire for us, but it's my mod that brings in the flamethrower that shoots the fire, or brings in the particles that you see, that kind of thing. And that's how Siri and Zith have worked for the last couple of years. Zith's kind of on a little sabbatical right now, but I know he plans on coming back with A21, and then you'll see, I think, a lot of the features you're asking for if they're not already in NPC mod. Oh yeah, absolutely. Outside of XMLs, they're always going to have to download something. We tried talking them into, at least getting the friggin' icons, right? Because the UI mods are by far the most popular, and you got to download the icons. You still need a client install, and that's why well, the icons don't push. You can use it for some. There's two different kinds of images in UI. Something called sprites, and I forget what the other one's called. One is down. You can use a web link for. The other one you have to download. And that's why Cerulean's like, okay, well, you got to download something anyway. Let's just do code, which is why he's now using actual code to do a lot of the cool stuff that his UI does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, what are you scared of, Josh?
He's plotting. It's fine.
Yeah.
30 a.m.
God damn.
The loudest whisper I've ever
Loud
heard.
whispering.
It's not how you do ASMR.
Yep.
Mm.
Cool.
Mm.
Thank you.
No, thanks, Guppy.
Well, you guys take care then.
Good to see you, Guppy.
Appreciate.
All right.
Later.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Cheers.
Mm. 17. Sure hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye, Libby.
Toulou.